There is a specific, heavy kind of silence that exists inside a sensitive compartmented information facility, or SCF. It is a pressurized silence, the kind that smells of recycled air, ozone, and the quiet, rhythmic hum of servers that hold the potential to level entire cities. I have lived in that silence for 15 years, learning the rhythm of national defense better than I know the rhythm of my own heartbeat. Before we dive deeper into this story of corporate sabotage and revenge, let me know in the comments, what city or country are you watching this from? I always love seeing where you all are tuning in from. You see, when you design the encryption schema for a $2 billion missile response protocol, you don't just write code, you write the architecture of survival. I am not a soldier. I don't carry a rifle and I don't wear fatigues. My weapon is logic. My battlefield is usually a whiteboard in a windowless room at the Pentagon. But 3 months ago, the battlefield shifted. It moved from the secure concrete of DC to a glass-walled corporate office in Northern Virginia called Helix Systems. And the enemy wasn't a foreign state actor or a hacker group. It was a man named Clayton Marks, a suit with a freshly printed business card and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. I walked into the lobby of Helix Systems at 7:45 sharp, just as I had every day for the past year. The building is one of those architectural flexes common in the defense sector. Too much glass, too much steel, designed to look transparent while hiding absolutely everything. Usually, the security guards, Miller and Davis, give me a nod. They know better than to ask for ID. They've seen me walk in with 3-star generals. But today, Miller wasn't at the desk. There was a new guy, young, looking nervous, tapping frantically at a tablet. I approached the turnstiles and pulled my badge from my purse, a hard plastic card with a magnetic strip that had granted me access to rooms that don't officially exist. I tapped it against the reader. Beep beep, red light. I frowned, adjusting my grip. Maybe it was the magnet in my phone case interfering with the signal. I tapped it again, firmer this time. Beep beep, red light. Access denied flashed on the small OLED screen in polite, glowing letters. Ma'am, the new guard called out. He wasn't rude, just doing his job. If the badge isn't working, you'll need to sign in at the guest kiosk. I stopped dead. The air in the lobby felt suddenly thin. I looked at the badge in my hand. It wasn't just a piece of plastic, it was a symbol of 10 years of clearance work. To be relegated to the guest kiosk was an administrative glitch, surely. Or maybe, just maybe, it was the first shot in a war I hadn't realized I was fighting. It's Diana Grant, I said, keeping my voice level. I'm the lead architect for the Sentinel protocol. My clearance is higher than the CEO's. Check the manual override list. The guard tapped his screen, his brow furrowing as he scrolled. I'm sorry, Miss Grant. I don't see you on the active employee roster. The system lists you as, let me see here. External vendor, pending expiration. Pending expiration. The words hung in the air like toxic smoke. The guard was a pawn. The player moving him was upstairs on the 40th floor. Fine, I said, the word tasting like ash. I'll sign in. I walked over to the iPad mounted on a stand. It asked for my name, the person I was visiting, and most insultingly, my citizenship status. I typed Diana Grant. For the person I was visiting, I typed Clayton Marks. I printed the sticky paper badge that spat out of the machine. It was flimsy thermal paper. I slapped it onto the lapel of my tailored blazer. It felt like a target. As I waited for the elevator, I let my mind run a diagnostic. Why no? The project was in phase 4. We were weeks away from the final Department of Defense review. The integration testing was 90% complete. The only variable that had changed in the last month was the leadership structure at Helix. The old VP of Strategic Accounts had retired to a golf course in Florida, and in his place came Clayton. Clayton, who had spent the last 5 years optimizing synergies at a mid-tier logistics firm. Clayton, who thought TCP/IP was a brand of craft beer. When I reached the 40th floor, the atmosphere was different. Usually, this floor hums with focused energy. Today, it felt performative. People were walking faster, talking louder, carrying stacks of paper that looked important but were likely blank. I walked straight to my office, the corner one with a view of the Potomac, or rather, what used to be my office. The door was open. Inside, two facilities guys were moving a ficus tree into the corner. My desk, my mahogany desk where I had mapped out the logic gates for the missile interceptors, was gone. In its place was a sleek glass table with 4 chairs. A meeting pod. Excuse me, I said. The guys stopped, looking guilty. Where are my files? The hard drives that were in the safe. Mr. Marks had them moved, one of them said, wiping sweat from his forehead. Said he was repurposing the space for collaborative ideation. Your stuff is in the Annex Cube 4B. The Annex. That was code for the overflow area near the bathrooms. It was where they put the summer interns and the contractors they were about to fire. I felt a cold prickle of heat at the base of my neck. It wasn't anger. Anger is messy. Anger makes you sloppy. This was adrenaline. This was the system detecting a threat. Clayton wasn't just moving my desk, he was rewriting the narrative. He was physically removing me from the center of power before the final payout. I walked to the annex. It was a gray, windowless purgatory. There, in a cubicle meant for someone half my size, sat a cardboard box with my personal effects, a framed photo of my dog, a stress ball, and my award from the IEEE. My secure terminal, the one with direct lines to the Pentagon test servers, was disconnected and sitting on the floor. I sat in the cheap rolling chair. It squeaked. I took a deep breath, inhaling the scent of stale coffee and fear. Most people would have stormed into Clayton's office right then. They would have yelled. They would have threatened to sue. But I don't yell. I execute. I pulled out my personal laptop, air-gapped, encrypted with a key that exists only in my head, and opened a new file. I named it Log 0. If Clayton wanted to play a game of visibility, he was about to learn a very hard lesson about camouflage. The most dangerous things in the world aren't the ones standing in the spotlight demanding attention. The most dangerous things are the ones you don't see until the impact counter hits 0. My phone buzzed. It was an email from Clayton, sent at 7:30 a.m. Asterisk subject, transition and alignment. Diana, per our new operational directive, we are streamlining the consultant interface. Please route all technical queries through my office for approval. We need to ensure a unified voice for the client. Thanks for being a team player, asterisk. Unified voice, I whispered to the gray fabric of the cubicle wall. You mean your voice? I didn't reply. I just took a screenshot. Then I opened the calendar for the day. There was a strategic overview meeting at 10 a.m. I wasn't on the invite list. I checked my watch. 8:15 a.m. I had an hour and 45 minutes to prepare. I wasn't going to crash the meeting. That's desperate. I was going to be the ghost in the machine. The annex, as it turned out, was acoustically perfect for eavesdropping. The cheap partition walls were thin, and the ventilation ducts carried sound from the executive conference room down the hall with surprising clarity. I sat in Cube 4B and listened. Clayton Marks walked past the annex entrance at 9:55 a.m. I saw him through the gap in the partition. He was wearing a suit that cost more than my first car, and he walked with that specific strut of a man who has failed upward his entire life. He was talking to his assistant, a terrified-looking young woman named Sarah. Did you scrub the headers on the slide deck? Clayton asked. His voice was a rich baritone, wasted on buzzwords. Yes, Mr. Marks, Sarah whispered. I replaced the author, D. Grant metadata with the company logo, just like you asked. Good. And the encryption logic summary? The one with all the math. I simplified it. Put it into bullet points. Excellent. We don't want to confuse the stakeholders with the weeds. We need to sell the vision. I felt a muscle in my jaw jump. The weeds he referred to were the cryptographic proofs that ensured a hacker couldn't redirect a Tomahawk missile into a population center. He was simplifying national security into a PowerPoint slide. I watched in real time on my phone as the File Sentinel Protocol version 4.5 final was modified. The last edited by tag switched from D. Grant to C. Marks. He wasn't just taking credit. He was erasing the audit trail. This was dangerous. If something went wrong in defense code, and something always goes wrong, the investigators would look at the metadata. If his name was on it, he was liable. But Clayton was too arrogant to understand the liability he was absorbing. He only saw the glory. I decided to take a walk. I needed to see this vision in action. I walked past the conference room. The walls were glass, but they had been frosted recently, another transparency measure that actually blocked the view. The door was slightly ajar. The key to the Sentinel system, Clayton was saying, his voice projecting for the room, is the synergistic overlay of the AI heuristics. I almost laughed out loud. Synergistic overlay. I had written a polymorphic engine that adapted to intrusion attempts in nanoseconds. He made it sound like an Instagram filter. Clayton, a voice interrupted. It was Dr. Eris, the lead systems engineer. He was a good man, brilliant, but timid. The heuristic engine isn't an overlay. It's the kernel. If we treat it as an overlay in the documentation, the DoD compliance team will flag it as a vulnerability. There was a pause. I could imagine Clayton's smile tightening. Eris, look, Clayton said, his tone condescendingly patient. I appreciate the technical nuance. Really, I do. But we are speaking to generals, not coders. They want to know it works. They don't care how the sausage is made. Let's not get bogged down in the how. Let's focus on the wow. The wow. I closed my eyes for a second. This man was going to get people killed. I walked back to my cube. My phone buzzed again. It was an email from legal. Asterisk subject, contractor status review. Miss Grant, per the request of the VP of Strategic Accounts, we are reviewing the necessity of external consultancy for the maintenance phase. Please surrender your physical access keys to security by end of day Friday. Your digital access will be transitioned to read-only effective immediately. Asterisk. They were cutting the cord. Friday was 3 days away. The final presentation to the Pentagon was next Tuesday. Clayton was timing this perfectly. He wanted me gone, physically and digitally, before the general arrived. He wanted to be the only face in the room. I didn't reply to legal. I didn't storm into the meeting and slam my hand on the table. Instead, I opened my personal laptop again. I accessed a secure, encrypted partition that contained my insurance policy. Years ago, when I was working Black Ops logistics, I learned a vital lesson. Never build a house you can't lock from the outside. The Sentinel protocol was my house. And while Clayton had the keys to the front door, he didn't know about the foundation inspection hatch. I began to type. I wasn't sabotaging the code. That would be treason. I was a patriot, not a vandal. Instead, I was activating a latent logging feature I had embedded deep within the compiler. Every keystroke, every file modification, every version change made by Clayton or his team would now be mirrored to a secure server in my control. If he wanted to own the code, he was going to own every single mistake he made with it. Around noon, Clayton emerged from the conference room, high on his own supply. He spotted me in the annex. For a second, he looked surprised, as if he expected me to have evaporated already. Then he put on that slick, shark-like smile. Diana, he called out, walking over. He leaned against the partition of my cubicle, invading my space. Just the person I wanted to see. We had a great session in there. Really moved the ball down the field. I heard, I said, not looking up from my screen. The wow factor. He chuckled, missing the sarcasm entirely. Exactly. Look, I know this transition to the annex is a bit abrupt, but we need to lean up. And, honestly, with the project moving to maintenance, your heavy lifting is done. We can handle the day-to-day. The protocol isn't in maintenance, Clayton, I said, finally looking him in the eye. It's in pre-deployment validation. If you change the metadata headers, you break the checksums. The DoD servers will reject the update. He waved a hand dismissively. We'll fix it in post. That's just details. Listen, I need you to forward all your raw data files to Sarah. We're consolidating the archives. And legal mentioned something about your keys. Friday, I said. Right. Friday. Well, let's make sure everything is handed over by then. We want a clean break. No loose ends. No loose ends, I repeated the phrase in my head. He tapped the top of my cubicle wall and walked away, whistling. He thought he had just fired a subordinate. He didn't realize he had just dismissed the only person who knew how to fly the plane he was currently piloting. I watched him go. Make sure you save the originals, Clayton, I murmured. I turned back to my screen. The mirroring script was active. I opened a new document. Incident report. Unauthorized metadata modification/risk of checksum failure. I dated it, timestamped it, and digitally signed it. I wasn't just taking notes anymore. I was building a dossier. There's a diner about 5 miles south of the Helix Systems HQ. It's called The Hangar, and it hasn't been renovated since the Cold War. The vinyl booths are cracked, the coffee tastes like battery acid and burnt hazelnuts, and it is the preferred meeting spot for mid-level Pentagon brass who want to talk without a paper trail. I arrived at 6 p.m. The lunch rush was long gone. The dinner crowd hadn't arrived. The place was empty except for a trucker eating meatloaf. And in the back booth, Colonel Marcus Alvarez. Marcus wasn't wearing his uniform. He was in a gray hoodie and jeans, looking like a tired dad rather than the man responsible for the logistical deployment of the Eastern Seaboard's missile defense shield. But his posture gave him away, back straight, eyes scanning the entrance every 3 seconds. When he saw me, he didn't smile, just nodded and moved his coffee cup to the side to clear space on the table. I slid into the booth opposite him. "You look like hell, Marcus." "And you look like you're dressed for a funeral," he countered, eyeing my black blazer. "Maybe I am," I said. "How's the family?" "Sarah's good. Kids are expensive." "Let's skip the pleasantries, D." My secure comms have been buzzing all day. I'm seeing update flags on the Sentinel project that don't match the deployment schedule. The authorship tags are weird. The waitress came over. "Coffee black," I said. "Keep it coming." Once she left, I leaned in. The tags are weird because Clayton Marks is rewriting history. He scrubbed my name, Marcus. He's putting his own signature on the code blocks. Marcus swore quietly. He rubbed his face with both hands. I knew it. I told the general that Helix was getting shaky. "Who is this guy?" I looked up his file. He's a suit. MBA from Wharton. Track record in cost optimization. He doesn't know a logic gate from a garden gate. He's the new VP, I said. And as of this morning, he's the unified voice of the project. I've been moved to a cubicle by the bathroom, and my contract is being terminated on Friday. Marcus froze. He lowered his hands and looked at me with a terrifying intensity. Terminated before the final review? That's suicide. The general won't sign off on a system if the architect isn't in the room to vouch for it. Clayton thinks he can vouch for it, I said dryly. He thinks it's just a matter of selling the vision. He's going to crash the whole damn grid. Marcus hissed. Diana, you know the integration protocols. If he forces an update with broken checksums during the live demo next week, the system will lock down. I know, I finished for him. It will interpret the mismatch as a hostile injection. It'll brick the defense servers for 48 hours while it purges the cache. We'll be blind. And $2 billion goes down the drain, along with my career and the general's stars. Marcus looked ready to punch the table. I should call him now. I should have MP pull this Clayton clown out of his office. No, I said sharply. Not yet. Why the hell not? Because if you intervene now, Clayton spins it. He'll say I'm a disgruntled contractor poisoning the well. He'll say the military is overreaching into corporate governance. He has the board in his pocket right now. He's promising them higher margins by cutting expensive consultants. If you attack him, he becomes a martyr. I reached into my purse. I pulled out a small, ruggedized external hard drive. It was black, heavy, and unassuming. What's this? Marcus asked. This, I said, sliding it across the sticky Formica table, is the truth. It contains the source code as of 7 o'clock this morning, signed with my private key. It also contains a log of every change Clayton has made since he took over. It has the original threat simulations, the failure scenarios he deleted because they looked too negative, and the emails where he instructed his team to bypass the safety checks. Marcus put his hand on the drive. He didn't pick it up immediately. He just covered it, protecting it. Want me to hold this? I want you to keep it off the grid. Don't plug it into a duty machine yet. Just have it ready when the time comes. When is the time? Tuesday, I said. The final presentation. Marcus looked at me, realizing the plan. A slow, grim smile touched his lips. You're going to let him hang himself. I'm going to hand him the rope, I corrected. He's the one tying the knot. The waitress returned with the coffee. The pot was stained brown, the glass chipped. It was the most honest thing I'd seen all day. I took a sip. It was terrible. It was perfect. One more thing, Marcus said, slipping the drive into his hoodie pocket. We're hearing chatter. The board is nervous. They know Clayton is a risk, but they like his numbers. If he pulls off this presentation, he's untouchable. He becomes the CEO within a year. He won't pull it off, I said, signaling for the check. How can you be sure? I looked out the window at the parking lot. A single street lamp was flickering, fighting a losing battle against the gathering twilight. Because he thinks the Sentinel protocol is a product. He doesn't understand that it's a living system. He thinks he can bully the code like he bullies his assistants. I turned back to Marcus, my voice dropping to a whisper. He doesn't know that I built a dependency into the core logic. It requires a manual handshake, a specific cryptographic key entered by the lead architect every 30 days. If that handshake doesn't happen... System lockout, Marcus whispered, the realization dawning on him. Handshake is due on Tuesday, I said. At 1,400 hours. Right in the middle of his presentation. Marcus laughed, a short, barking sound. You're cold, Diana. Ice cold. I'm not cold, Marcus, I said, standing up. I'm just quality control. The next morning, I engaged in the futile ritual known as going to HR. In the corporate world, human resources is often described as a neutral arbiter. In reality, they are the immune system of the company, designed to identify and isolate foreign bodies. And right now, I was the virus. I sat across from a woman named Tiffany. She was 20-something with a smile that looked like it had been focus grouped. Her office smelled of vanilla air freshener and denial, the walls plastered with inspirational posters. Teamwork makes the dream work. Visualize success. So, Diana, Tiffany said, scanning the formal complaint I had just slid across her desk. You're alleging intellectual property theft and a hostile work environment? I'm not alleging it, Tiffany. I'm documenting it. Clayton Marks has removed my name from the copyright headers of federal defense software. That is a felony under federal acquisition regulations. He has also instructed staff to ignore safety protocols. Tiffany sighed, the sound of a parent dealing with a toddler who won't eat their peas. Diana, look. Clayton is very dynamic. His style is new. Sometimes change can feel like hostility, but we have to look at the big picture. He's trying to create a cohesive brand narrative. Brand narrative, I repeated, my voice dropping an octave. The air in the room felt suddenly heavy. We are building missile defense systems, Tiffany. We aren't selling yoga pants. If the narrative is wrong, people die. Tiffany tapped her pen on the desk, her smile tightening. See, this is the attitude I've been hearing about. Rigid. Not a culture fit. Diana, your contract is ending. Maybe it's best to just let go. Finish the week. Take your severance and move on. Why burn bridges? I'm not burning bridges, I said, standing up. I'm reporting an arsonist. I walked out. I had done my duty. I had filed the paperwork. The system had failed to correct itself. Now I was free to use manual override. I went back to the annex. It was Thursday. One day left before my access was revoked. I waited until lunch. The office cleared out around 12:30. Clayton always took a 2-hour lunch with potential investors, usually his buddies from the country club. The bullpen was quiet, save for the hum of the servers. I opened my laptop and connected to the internal network. Because Clayton had insisted on streamlining access, he had merged the admin permissions. In his arrogance, he had given himself superuser status, but he hadn't changed the default root password on the new server cluster. Login, admin. Password, *123*. I stared at the screen. It was pathetic. It was insulting. I was in. I navigated to the core directory and found the file, Sentinel_kernel_v5.0. This was the build they were planning to demo on Tuesday. I opened the code. I didn't delete anything. That would be sabotage. Instead, I located the 3 key modules responsible for the graphical user interface, the pretty pictures Clayton loved so much. I applied a layer of encryption to them. Not a heavy one, just enough that the system would need to verify the author's credentials to render the graphics. If the author was listed as Clayton Marks, the system would check his hash against the code's hash. Clayton hadn't written a line of code in his life. The hashes wouldn't match. The system wouldn't crash. It would simply refuse to display the wow factor. Instead, it would display a raw error log. Specifically, *error 4003, author verification failed. Please contact administrator, *. I set the encryption to activate on a timer, Tuesday, 13:59. 1 minute before the presentation started. I also found the email Clayton had sent to the CFO. Subject: the grand issue. Don't worry about her complaints. She's old guard, a dinosaur. We need fresh blood. I'll have her out by Friday. Once she's gone, we can reallocate her budget line to the marketing push. Who needs a $200,000 architect for maintenance, right? I saved the email. Then I did something petty. I admit it. I went into the digital cafeteria menu for the following week and changed Taco Tuesday to Traders Get Tacos. No one would notice until it was too late. Friday morning. My last day. The atmosphere in the office was suffocating. People avoided eye contact with me as I walked to the annex. They knew I was a dead woman walking. In corporate culture, failure is contagious. If you stand too close to the person getting fired, you might catch a layoff. At 10 a.m., there was a mandatory all-hands Zoom call to prep for the DoD presentation. The invite in my inbox had a tag I hadn't seen before: role, observer only/audio disabled. They had preemptively muted me. I sat in my cubicle, put on my headphones, and joined the call. On my screen, a grid of faces appeared. Clayton was in the center, large and high definition, broadcasting from his office. Team, Clayton began, his voice booming. This is it. The home stretch. Tuesday is going to be a defining moment for Helix. We are going to show the Pentagon that we aren't just a contractor, we are a partner. He pulled up a screen share. It was the slide deck. Slide 1, Sentinel Protocol, the future of defense. Presented by Clayton Marks, my name was nowhere. It was as if I had never existed. He clicked to slide 4, Technical Architecture. As you can see, Clayton narrated, we have streamlined the logic pathways. We removed the redundant verification loops to increase speed by 40%. I gasped. I couldn't help it. Redundant verification loops? Those weren't redundancies. Those were the safety checks that prevented the system from mistaking a flock of geese for a nuclear warhead. He had removed them. I frantically typed into the chat box, Clayton, you cannot remove the verification loops. That violates the fail-safe compliance, The message appeared for a split second, then vanished. Deleted by moderator. Clayton didn't even pause. I see some activity in the chat. Let's keep the channel clear for constructive feedback only. We don't want to get bogged down in negativity. He was gaslighting the entire engineering team. I looked at Dr. Eris's video feed. He looked pale. He knew. But he had a mortgage and 3 kids. He stayed silent. Now, Clayton continued, regarding the live demo. We will be running the interceptor scenario. It's flashy. It's loud. The general will love it. I'll drive the simulation from my terminal. He was going to run a live simulation on a gutted system. It was madness. I tried to unmute myself. The icon remained gray. The host has disabled your microphone. I sat there, gripping the edge of my desk until my knuckles turned white. This was the ultimate power move. He wasn't just firing me. He was forcing me to watch him dismantle my life's work while gagging me. At 4:45 p.m., Miller, the security guard, appeared at my cubicle. He looked miserable. Miss Grant, he said, holding a cardboard box. Mr. Marks asked me to escort you out. He wants your badge and your laptop. I stood up. I buttoned my blazer. I picked up my purse and the small framed photo of my dog. It's okay, Miller, I said softly. You're just following orders. I handed him the badge. You're not allowed back on the premises, Miller added, looking at his shoes. Don't worry, I said. I won't need a badge for where I'm going. Tuesday morning broke with a sky the color of bruised iron. Rain lashed against the windshield of my car as I drove toward Helix Systems. It was fitting weather for a demolition. I arrived at 13:30. The presentation was scheduled for 1400 hours. The parking lot was full of black SUVs with government plates. The general's entourage had arrived. I walked to the front entrance. The young guard from last week was there. He saw me approaching and looked panicked, reaching for his radio. "Miss Grant," he stammered as I pushed through the revolving door. I can't let you in. Mr. Marks was very specific. "You're on the do not admit list." I stopped. I looked him in the eye. I didn't shout. I didn't beg. I reached into my pocket and pulled out a different badge. Not a Helix badge. A Department of Defense contractor badge, issued directly by the Pentagon. It had a gold chip that granted access to any facility hosting classified DoD material. "I'm not here as a Helix employee, son," I said. "I'm here as a federal asset inspecting a secure site. If you block me, you're obstructing a federal audit. Do you want to explain that to the MPs outside?" The guard swallowed hard. He looked at the badge, then at the SUVs, then back at me. The color drained from his face. He lowered the radio. "Go ahead, ma'am. Step 1 complete." I took the elevator to the 40th floor. The silence was absolute. The hallway leading to the boardroom was lined with fresh lilies. They smelled like a funeral. I reached the heavy oak double doors. I could hear voices inside, laughter, the clink of china. I smoothed my blazer. I took a breath. I pushed the doors open. The room froze. At the head of the oval table sat General Sloan, looking like a granite statue in dress blues. Beside him was Marcus, who gave me a microscopic nod. On the other side were the Helix executives and Clayton. Clayton was standing near the screen, holding a laser pointer. When he saw me, his smile faltered for a fraction of a second before reassembling into a mask of annoyed condescension. "Diana," he said, his voice loud enough to carry. "I didn't realize you were coming. We've already started the preliminary briefing." He walked over to me, positioning his body to block me from the general's view, lowering his voice to a hiss. "What the hell are you doing here?" I told security. "I'm here for the presentation, Clayton," I said calmly. "I'm the architect." He laughed, a sharp, incredulous sound. He put a hand on my shoulder, a patronizing, heavy grip. "Diana, look. We appreciate your past contributions. Really. But this is a strategic-level discussion. We need the A-team in here. Your support staff. And frankly, you're disrupting the flow." He turned to the room, smiling at the general. "Apologies, General. Miscommunication with our vendor. We like to run a tight ship." He turned back to me, his eyes cold. "Consultants wait outside, Diana. There's a chair in the hall. We'll call you if we need tech support." The room was silent. The CEO looked at his notepad. "They were letting it happen. Is that your final decision, Mr. Marks?" I asked. "It is," he said. "Please leave." I nodded slowly. I turned around. I walked toward the door. My heels clicked on the parquet floor, marking time. Asterisk click. 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 Asterisk. I reached for the handle. I was 1 second away from walking out and letting the building burn down behind me. "Hold on." The voice was gravel and thunder. It didn't come from Clayton. General Sloan stood up. "Clayton," the general said, "did I hear you correctly? Did you just refer to Miss Grant as support staff?" "Well, yes, General. In the corporate hierarchy, she's an external contractor. We're streamlining our—" "I don't give a damn about your corporate hierarchy," Sloan interrupted, walking around the table. He moved with the heavy, predatory grace of a tank. "I care about the Sentinel Protocol. And according to the briefing you sent me, Miss Grant is the lead architect." "On paper, yes," Clayton stammered, sweat starting to bead on his forehead. "But in practice, I've been overseeing the strategic vision. The code it's a commodity. Anyone can write code." The general stopped in front of Clayton. He looked down at him. "A commodity." Sloan turned to me. "Miss Grant, please come back to the table." I walked back, standing next to the general. Clayton looked like he wanted to vomit. "Now, Mr. Marks," Sloan said. "You were about to show us a live simulation. The interceptor scenario." "Yes, sir," Clayton said, his voice cracking. "It's ready." "Good. Run it." Clayton scrambled to his laptop. He plugged in the HDMI cable. The main screen flickered to life. "Okay," Clayton said, typing frantically. Initiating launch sequence. I checked my watch. 13:59. Clayton hit enter. The screen went black. Then, red text appeared. Asterisk critical error 4003. Author verification failed. Cryptographic handshake required. Please contact lead architect, D. Grant. Asterisk. The red text pulsed on the giant 80-inch screen, casting a demonic glow over Clayton's terrified face. What is this? The CEO hissed. It's a glitch, Clayton stuttered, hitting keys at random. It's just a display bug. The system is running in the background. It's not a glitch, I said, my voice cutting through the panic. It's a security feature. The system requires the lead architect to verify the build integrity every 30 days. Since you removed my name from the authorization list, the system assumes you are a hostile actor. It has locked you out. Clayton stared at the screen. Fix it, he whispered to me. Diana, please fix it. I looked at the general. Sloan crossed his arms. He was smiling. A terrifying, shark-like smile. Well, Mr. Marks. It seems you have a choice. You can admit you don't know how to fly this plane, or you can crash it. Clayton looked at the CEO, who was currently glaring at him with murder in his eyes. He looked at the general. Then he looked at me. The arrogance was gone. He was just a small man in a suit that was too expensive for him. I can't fix it, Clayton whispered. I don't know the key. Step away from the terminal, the general ordered. Clayton stepped back, defeated. Sloan gestured to the chair at the head of the table. His chair. Miss Grant, if you would. I sat down. I pulled my laptop from my bag and connected to the secure port. Authorizing override, I said, typing the command. Key, Archangel, 01. The red screen vanished. The map of the eastern seaboard appeared. Green lights flickered across the grid. The interceptors deployed. The simulation ran perfectly. 100% success rate. System active, I said. Ready for command. The general nodded. Outstanding. He turned to the CEO of Helix. You have a serious personnel problem. I suggest you fix it before I leave the building. The CEO stood up. Mr. Marks. My office. Now. Clayton walked out of the room. He didn't look at me. He walked past the flowers, past the glass walls, into oblivion. The fallout was swift. By the time I left the boardroom, Clayton was being escorted out by security, holding a small cardboard box. Poetic justice is rare in this world. I took a moment to savor it. A week later, an internal memo went out. The Strategic Accounts Division was dissolved. All defense projects would now report directly to the newly formed Office of Advanced Technology, led by Chief Technical Officer Diana Grant. My phone rang. It was General Sloan. Congratulations on the promotion, Diana, he said. But listen, I have a new file for you. It's not missile defense. It's bigger. Domestic infrastructure. Power, water, data. We need a unified resilience protocol. It's messy, it's political, and it's impossible. That's why I want you to lead it. I looked out the window at the Potomac. The river kept flowing, indifferent to the battles we fought in glass towers. Send the file, I said. A moment later, a secure document appeared in my inbox. Asterisk Project Civil Resilience Network. Project Lead, D. Grant. Asterisk. I smiled. Clayton had wanted to be a hero of a story he didn't understand. I didn't need to be a hero. I am the architect. And I have work to do. I typed the first command, initialize log 01. The cursor blinked, waiting for my input. I was back in command. And this time, I wasn't waiting outside for anyone.